So I will use one of my favorite software and presentations. It's called Prezi Video. It's actually also the same software that we use in many of our online videos on Shabab Lab platform itself. I will introduce myself very briefly. My name is Muna Aitani. I am an assistant professor of entrepreneurship at the American University of Beirut. I completed my PhD around a year ago, and this came after 10 years of academic experience. So I was teaching part-time first, then full-time in the Faculty of Engineering, and then I was doing my PhD in parallel. And finally joined the School of Business as a full-time assistant professor. This teaching experience at AUB has led me to find certain problems, especially with the youth population that I was interacting with in the classroom. And it led to the creation of the social enterprise, Riyada for Social Innovation, which later on led to the creation of Shabab Lab, which is the e-learning platform that I will be talking more about today, and the programs that you will be responsible for following up with your students. So this all came from a real need, a real problem I witnessed, and as someone who is socially responsible and a mom as well, I always felt that I need to create some change in the world, and this came as a result of this social obligation, I would say. Honestly, my best feeling ever is when I get these messages from our youth, from our alumni who have taken programs with us, whether on Shabab Lab or using the more face-to-face traditional method, and say this experience was life-changing. Thanks to this program, I now I'm working, on a creative idea, or I'm now a scholar in this university, or this helped me understand better what I want to do in my career. So these are some of my highlight points where I feel like I'm doing well in this world. And honestly, it's all about doing good for the world and creating change in the way that we can. And for us, we're educators, we're into technology, and we believe that we can spread change making through technology and education. And I'm sure we're all on the same page here, because your schools are also doing a great job in this aspect. So I'm going to tell you more about Shabab Lab. I'm telling you now the agenda for today. I'm going to tell you why are we doing this. I think it's really important for you as teachers to understand why we're doing this, because you might get these questions from the students, why, I don't understand why I should be doing this. What's the ultimate goal? What am I supposed to achieve? So you should always really understand what's the goal behind these programs. We'll talk more about the grade 10 program and the grade 11 program, but more importantly about the methodology that we use. So what's different about our programs is really the methodology, the framework that we use, which makes them unique. Of course, we're doing e-learning. A million other entity are doing e-learning. This is something that's not new anymore. However, again, it's the framework and the methodology that we use, and that with your support will work in a great way. And then we will talk more about what will make your experience a successful one. How do you need to follow up with your students? What kind of feedback do you need to give them? And we have a lot of tips and tricks for that. Also, given the last year experience, we've really had great insights from both teachers, students, and we realized some things ourselves as well as a team working on this. So we've really come a long way, and we can definitely still improve a lot. So this is what I want to tell you. We're here to tell you what we've learned, how we're improving, and we want to keep listening and hearing your feedback. So we expect you to tell us, this is not working the way we expected. We believe this could be added, this could be enhanced, and we're all ears for these kinds of improvements, because, well, this is how we get to where we want to get. So I'm going to tell you more, as I mentioned, about this year's high school offering for grade 10 and 11. Again, this will be changing every single year. And because we cannot stay static, we need to keep changing and improving things. And again, the main reason why we're doing this whole thing is the big gap that we have, and that I hope you all agree with me, that it exists, the gap between education and the job market, you know, the workplace, what employers need, now 21st century dynamics. So we have a huge gap between what we offer, whether as schools or as universities, and between the workplace, the employers' needs, and schools and educators are always in a race to keep up with this ever-changing world. Now, you know, I'm sure you've started hearing from your students about cryptocurrencies and NFTs and the metaverse and what have you. And it's almost impossible for the educational system to keep up to speed. So this is where Shabab Lab is stepping in. We are partnering up with education institutions, with you, teachers, with schools, in order to help you feel better about bridging this gap, providing you with the tools, the knowledge, and the latest technology to make this possible. So we want you to see us as partners, okay, in this, and we aim to help you bridge this gap. So I'm sure you also all know that the jobs are changing in a crazy way. Like some of the jobs that are highly in demand today did not exist 10 years ago, like blockchain analyst, cloud architect, drone operator, telemedicine physician. These are things we have not heard of 10 years ago, and now they are mainstream. So we should always be preparing our youth or students for the future of jobs. I just have a call from one of the school supervisors, so if you allow me to take it, just 1 minute. All right, so our solution to these issues that I just raised now is really helping the schools equip its students with the necessary skills for the 21st century. And based on our research, we found out that we are talking about 3 important skills. The first one is usually everything related to having an open mind, flexibility, creativity, innovation. This is a lot of employability skills, and it's usually you gain it through entrepreneurial skills, which is one of the components of our programs. The other one, which is very highly demanded, are technical skills. So everything related to the new 21st century technology, including mobile app development, web development, virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, data science, and others, robotics, etc., and service learning. Because now more people are also aware that we cannot separate technology business from the needs of the world, of the planet, of the people, of the society. So all schools are also aware that we need to strengthen the service learning component. And they often find difficulties or challenges in that, because usually most of the times, like the ideas are the same, service learning is the same. And today we're going to tackle some of these issues, how to foster like these new really creative ideas that also help in the society. So what are we offering is the expertise. So we have, the technical expertise, the educational expertise, and expertise in these areas. We have the resources, the people, and the technology, and we are helping you really provide quality education by adding these to your curricula. So by adding these to your offering as a school, you are showing that you care about the future of the students. You want them to excel in their careers. You want them to be able to get accepted in their dream universities. You want them to also gain that, scholarship, which requires this high level of community engagement, service learning, and being a well-rounded person. So you're really giving a great opportunity for them to stand out from the rest of youth the same in the same age, you know, in the same shoes, by giving them these skills that are lacking in a lot of educational curricula in our times, of course. And of course, our solution is Shabab Lab. It's an e-learning platform. It's the first social innovation e-learning platform in the Arab world. We're really proud of that. But our vision is way more than that. We aim to become the Coursera for high schoolers in the Arab world. And hopefully soon we will be contacting you to see how we can collaborate together to create more content, e-learning content. So it's online courses, asynchronous courses on the platform to also help your students. And many of these will be completely for free for students to help them gain these 21st century skills that we're talking about. So I'll tell you how it all started. We really started more than 4 years ago under the official name, which is Riyada for Social Innovation. This is our registered company in Lebanon. And we realized after the first year that our solution should be scaled, and to scale, we decided to go online. Online was challenging at first, but when COVID hit, honestly, it was the perfect opportunity for us to realize our dream. So for us, COVID was a blessing and not a curse. And we have really used it well to launch our platform. And whether through the face-to-face programs, which we still conduct upon request, but they are much more expensive, and our online programs, which are very affordable, we aim to, first of all, plant the seed of social entrepreneurship. So it's, again, a seed. We do not expect our youth after the program to directly launch businesses and, you know, start making money. But we know that we have planted the seed in them. We want throughout the programs to foster community engagement and problem solving. So we want them to be solving real social problems and finding significant solutions for them. We want them to have practice-based entrepreneurship learning. So not just what's entrepreneurship theoretically and how do you run a business theoretically. We want them to have a real flavor of this by doing it themselves through these hands-on programs. And I'll emphasize this point later on today. And finally, promoting technology for good, because I'm sure you know that our youth and your students are very immersed in technology. They were born with technology in their hands, literally. But unfortunately, mostly they are passive consumers of technology. So they keep using this technology without thinking how we can contribute to it. How can we use it, you know, for the betterment of society? Unfortunately, like most of the times we look at or we use technology in its commercial side, and many times it could be abused, misused, and it can really have a lot of disadvantages. But what we're trying to do here in Shabab Lab and our programs is to always highlight the positive angle, to highlight how you as a youth can use technology, can create technology-based solutions to solve real problems in a good way. So how do we look at it in a different way? So transforming the youth from passive consumers to active producers, and not just producers of normal tech, but tech for good. So this is the edge, if you want to say, about our technology development training. So we don't just train them to create a website, we train them to create a website for the social good. We don't just train them to create an augmented reality app, but we train them to create an augmented reality app for the social good, while giving them examples, showing them how it's done, and walking them through the entire process that will enable them to do that. So based on our experience, we were successful to have a lot of traction. We have worked with different institutions, including schools. You can see some of your schools' logos. And more importantly, we have also worked with a lot of different universities. UB, of course, is one of them, Hamad bin Khalifa University in Qatar. We've worked with other institutions, whether corporates, NGOs, INGOs in Lebanon and outside Lebanon. Some of them are in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and others. We've had also partnerships from the US, several of them from the US. And a lot of these are still ongoing until today. And as some of you have mentioned, we've piloted the programs we're talking about today last year, and it was a successful experience. I would like to say that we are also a startup. So whether it's not our latest achievements, we have more recent achievements, but we are walking the talk. So we are telling your students throughout the programs how to become an entrepreneur, what it takes, to have an entrepreneurial mindset, and we're doing this as well. So Shabab Lab is a startup company. It is being enrolled in different startup competitions, awards. Now we are going to Saudi Arabia for the semifinals of the MIT Arab Startup Competition. It's a very, very highly competitive competition, and we've made it to the semifinals and the social entrepreneurship track. And we're really hopeful that this will also allow us to penetrate the Saudi market, which is a huge market when we talk about sustainability, technology education, entrepreneurship education. So we are, walking the talk, and throughout our sessions, especially the live sessions, we give students this flavor of like, we know what we're talking about. It's not just theoretical, it's actual, it's real. So now this is really important, and I'm gonna show you this. This is the framework that you really need to very well understand and be able to also communicate to your students. So unlike other programs where, they just learn what is entrepreneurship, let's say, or, what is augmented reality, or what is web development, we adopt a completely different methodology. Our methodology is hands-on, and it takes them through an entire journey. So the very first thing they need to do is they need to find a problem in their community. So this is the first milestone. They need to find a problem, and this problem should pertain to one of the sustainable development goals which are under study in the program. So for example, for grade 10, we have environmental SDGs that we tackle, whereas for grade 11, they are completely different. We tackle good health and well-being, quality education, reduced inequalities, and sustainable cities and communities. So in each grade, they will have to think of a different set of problems in order to make sure that they are like really squeezing their creative juices and trying to look at things in different ways. So this is for the first milestone. How do we find a problem? I'm gonna now zoom out again, and I'll come back to the to this journey. How do we find a problem? We've found out that this was a very challenging thing for most schools and most students. And it's simply because we don't spend enough time, and I'm talking like the way we used to do it in schools, we don't spend enough time on finding this problem. So what usually happens is that we tell our students, go and find a problem. And this is like, it should be very fast. And then they say, okay, like I have cats and dogs, stray cats and dogs in my area. That's it. So it's based on their own observation, based on their own assumptions, and that's it. I mean, this is a good start, but it's never the end of it. So what we're trying to do here differently is that we're adopting what we call the design thinking framework. So the design thinking framework, by the way, it's a whole standalone course on Shabab Lab, which you can easily complete. It takes less than 1 hour to complete, and it has a lot of different examples. So the design thinking framework is stemming from the Silicon Valley. It stems from the best companies in the world in design and in entrepreneurship and innovation. And it has proven over the years to work magnificently in solving real world problems. So especially when it comes to societal problems, it works amazingly because it starts with empathy. What does empathy really mean? Empathy is putting yourself in the other person's shoes, the person who's facing this problem. So if I'm saying that we have stray cats and dogs, I mean, who are the people who are facing this problem? It should be someone in the community. that is like, you know, frustrated from this problem. So it couldn't be like the cats and the dogs. It should be humans usually. So we have to see how is this problem affecting humans. So maybe it's scaring away the kids, or we are afraid that these cats and dogs might, you know, cause harm to people, to pedestrians who are walking by, or maybe they are leaving you know, they're like, I don't know, poop on the sidewalk and it's being unclean. So there should be a problem, like a deeper problem that we want to solve. It could be that some people they want to adopt you know, pets, but it's very expensive nowadays in Lebanon. So this could be actually something to think about. So we have to get deeper into the problem, and the only way to do that is to do research. And this is where we talk about market research. I'm going to zoom in again. So here in the first milestone, they have to follow the design thinking framework, and we also prompt them to do market research. So we tell them you have to, in addition to doing interviews, in addition to talking to these people who are facing this problem, to understand the root cause of the problem, you also need to do some research. This research could be through surveys. So we're still doing some primary research like surveys, maybe phone calls. Also, it could be secondary research, like what did other countries do or cities do when they had this problem of stray pets? What are some good solutions that other people have adopted? What were the cause problems in those other cities? And how did different like communities, different initiatives, you know, different startups maybe go about it? How did they use technology to solve this problem? So sometimes it could be a tech-based solution. It could be a like a zero tech solution, basically. So all of this is really important before we say, this is what I need to solve. And I think this is something we've heard from the teachers was always missing, like problems were very similar to each other. They were like deja vu, they were, you know, somehow cliche problems. And this is what we are focusing on a lot this year, how to make these problems really different, really innovative, and tackling real issues, right? And not just, you know, the cliche issues that we hear about all the time from school students. So this is the first step. After this step, they start thinking of solutions. So what's different about this program is it really emphasizes the understanding of the problem first. And after they have defined a good problem, a real problem, they have understood who faces this problem, and they should be people, not like other living organisms. Okay, it should be because always there will be people involved, even if it's like, you know, the fish are dying in the sea. Why do we care? Because this will affect our ecosystem. It will have a ripple effect on us as human beings, on our health, on our planet, etc. So we should always put it back to humans. And this is when people are motivated. Oh, like we really need to do something about this. You cannot just sit and watch, because our lives are being affected. So only after doing that, we start thinking of the solution. And this is also, here also we emphasize again market research. So we also expose them to different ideation techniques. And this is part of the e-learning that they will take throughout Shabab Lab. I'll also talk more about this later. But here is also where they have to, again, look and see what are others doing. So this doing like what you call competitive analysis is super important, because you cannot just come up with a solution and say, I think this is the greatest solution in the world, and like a million other people have done it, right? Like you really have to understand what else exists, how are you being different, and there should always be this uniqueness in the solution or what you're trying to offer. Not, it won't need to be completely unique, but there should be something unique about it, right? So there should be what we call a unique value proposition. And what I'm presenting now is our unique value proposition, like what's different about Shabab Lab's e-learning program versus other programs you find on Coursera and Udemy and I don't know, Adrak and other e-learning platforms. So after they find the solution, and here is where they started to work in a team, by the way. So it's problem-based, it's practice-based and team-based. This is where they will start prototyping their solution. So they won't just tell me, oh, I will create this, you know, virtual reality app that will do this and that. they will actually have to prototype it. This is where the tech development component of the modules will come in handy. So this is why they learn technology, to be able to create a prototype, an actual product that works. It's not going to be like a complete product, and this is where we have to set our expectations right. So whether it's in grade 10 where they are creating a website, or in grade 11 where they are creating an augmented reality app, this will not be a fully functional app that they can launch right away after they finish the program. It could be that, depending on what they want to do, but at least it would be like a good looking prototype that makes their solution tangible, and it makes it understandable for us. So it's not a concept anymore. It has transformed from a concept to something that they can show us, and they will use this in their final pitch that they will have to provide at the end. After they create this prototype, which is like the actual solution using whatever they've learned in the technical development component, they will learn more about entrepreneurship, business, pitching, and this is where it's like the business component, and they will apply this entrepreneurial or business layer on top of everything they've done. So this is where they revisit the problem, they revisit the target audience or target market, they revisit their solution and their unique value proposition, they revisit, the different features and components that they are offering for their target market, and they will come up with a marketing strategy. They will think of their revenues, how are they going to make money, they will think of their cost structure, how much will this cost, and what are the cost components entailed in this. And they will also think of how do we measure our success and ensure our sustainability as a business or as a social business, because again, this should be for the social good. So they are solving an actual social or environmental problem in their solution, and they should never forget about that. So it's more social entrepreneurship than just entrepreneurship. And at the very end, they culminate all of this work, which is a hands-on project-based work, in this final pitch, where they will pitch their business plan like a real entrepreneur. So it's very much like the startup competition pitches that we see all the time in the entrepreneurship ecosystem around the world. And this is like the latest trends, worldwide. And this is like a very short pitch, 4 to 5 minute pitch, where they tell us again, what's their problem, what's their target market, what are they proposing, show us their prototype, their solution, how will they market it, how will they make money, etc. Who's the team, why is it the right team, and what do they need to make this happen. And all of this will go into a competition where they also get this, hopefully, some motivation to compete with other people who are as old as them and in different schools, in different countries, and win something valuable out of it, other than the experience, of course, which is the most valuable. Any questions so far about this methodology? Because I feel this is really important. And although we do present this to students in the information sessions, I feel sometimes they tend to forget that, this all builds up to one final goal, maybe because they're used to having completely separate modules. I don't know, maybe it's something in the educational culture. They tend to sometimes look at things passively. They forget that they need to apply, and so we feel sometimes they tend to forget during the program that this is, so it's one journey, it's one project, and it's leading to one goal. So any questions so far about this, or are we all doing well? Okay, I'm assuming everything's fine. Thank you. Great, thank you so much. All right, so again, just to from a pedagogical perspective, from an educational perspective, how does this journey tie into different components at school and the education system? So we're really working on 3 main pillars. The first one is community engagement. I know a lot of you are coming from this background. So what we're doing here is we are asking them to work in teams. We are asking them to work on a project, and this project should be community focused. And again, the SDGs are pillars that are basic to every single program that we have for you guys, for like the schools that we're offering to schools. So this is the community engagement part. The second one is technology development. So here they are learning 21st century skills, and they are becoming active producers rather than passive consumers. And again, what we've chosen for them, web and AR, are like things that they will use later on. In terms of web development, they can create a personal website, they can do freelance web development, they can create some additional income. If they have at any point any initiative they want to work on, they can easily create a website. So it's a skill they can really keep using, and it will come in handy later on. Same thing for augmented reality. Now I'm sure you've heard, about the metaverse and how big it is. Like, our youth are obsessed with this, and it's interesting to them to see how we can augment our reality basically with virtual components, and they will see how much applications this has in the world of education and health and cities and communities, etc. And finally, entrepreneurship is the business component, as I mentioned, and it was really in a lot of programs we have seen that other schools have told us about. It was the missing piece of the puzzle, I would say, because they would create this, sometimes tech-based solution for an environmental or a social problem. However, they lack the sustainability dimension of it. So how do we make this sustainable? How do we make it, long-lived? How would it sustain itself without only relying on fundraising, external funds, donations, etc.? So this is the piece of the puzzle that we are adding that will make this project a sustainable one. Okay, so they do not have to rely on daddy's money or on donations from the diaspora to make it work. They can just make it work by being self-sustainable and having a real plan, a business plan, and project sustainability that are embedded in this. And I believe that this is, like, based on my personal experience. I've worked for around 6 years in the nonprofit sector and non-governmental organizations, and this has frustrated me a lot, this lack of sustainability and complete reliance on fundraising and donations. And I believe this also came as a response, like, we should be social entrepreneurs and not just philanthropists, because unfortunately it's not very sustainable. So now the light will come back, no worries. I'm at AUB and they just have this reset every few hours. So now, again, any questions before we move on to the other programs? In case you have a question, just raise your hand and I would love to, hear your question. All right, so I'm going to talk more now about grade 10 program. So grade 10 students will create web-based solutions. So they will apply web development and they will focus on environmental problems. And again, I say environmental problems, this should be really specific. I'll also talk about this shortly, maybe after I give you some break. And this is another problem we have seen with the students. They tend to think of really general problems and very big problems, like, air pollution. Like, air pollution is so huge, you cannot solve it yourself. You have to really be specific. Like, you have to look at, for example, let's say, like, a household air quality. Like, this is something I can maybe be able to control, but I can't control air pollution overall. So I really have to be very specific with my problem. So the SDGs in focus are 6, 7, 12, 13, 14, 15. I mean, you've seen some of them behind me. So they are basically all the environmental SDGs. And the skills that they acquire throughout this program is, first of all, what's social innovation? So we have this whole module on social innovation, and it's also present as a standalone course on Shabab Lab platform, where we tell them more about what does it mean to be a social innovator, examples of social innovations, and we prompt them to think of social innovations from their own community as well. They learn how to conduct a market research. They learn more about the design thinking framework and how to apply it. So again, here, there's a very important key that we realized, like students sometimes we're forgetting that they're supposed to apply as they go. And I think this is one of the most important things that you do not forget as teachers and as supervisors, is to always remind them that whatever you're learning, we're expecting you to apply. And again, we have realistic expectations. For example, when I talk about design thinking and we tell them you need to interview and so on, I don't expect them to go and interview 100 people. Like usually in accelerator programs and entrepreneurship accelerators throughout the world, sometimes this is a condition. Like I've been in the US 3 years ago. I was doing a fellowship in an accelerator program. They told me we ask our startup founders to conduct 100 interviews. And this is like a must. Anything extra is great, but you cannot do less than that. So definitely we do not expect anything around that, but we expect like at least a handful of interviews. Like they cannot tell us I'm working on this problem and I have not interviewed anyone, because it will be only based on assumptions and we don't want that. Problem framing and ideation. So again, like when you do design thinking coupled with market research, this will help you to really frame your problem and it will help you come up with really good ideas, also while following the ideation techniques that we provide them with. Then they will do app development using WordPress. So we've always followed or used easy technology. We don't want to scare them away from tech. We don't want to make their lives miserable or very difficult. So we're using like really very friendly tools to make this tech development as smooth as possible. So even if they're not into tech, if they don't like tech, they can still do something and enjoy themselves and feel that I've accomplished something. Entrepreneurship and business planning is what I was just talking about. So, and this will be covered in another TOT because it's a whole thing by itself. And finally, pitching, how to present your work and convince others about it. And I've realized that unfortunately our school students tend to present in a, not all of them, I don't want to generalize here, but like most of them, like I know from my daughter, okay, like they tend to read the slides, for example, have lots of text on the slide, do it in a very passive way. Whereas pitching is completely different. Pitching should be like you put your heart into it. You should convince the audience. Should be very visual, very minimal text, etc. So this is very important. And you have a bit less than 4 months to finish the program, and we expect teachers to spend between 3, maximum 5 hours a week while they follow up on the student work. And I'm going to talk more about this later. As for grade 11, it's about augmented reality for social impact. They are learning AR tech, and we're not expecting you to do any of that, by the way. You can like very quickly skim through these modules on the platform, but we don't expect you to provide them with this technical expertise or support. We will do that, so don't worry about this part. And they will choose here a project related to SDGs 3, which is good health and well-being, 4, quality education, 10, reduced inequalities, or 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. And again, we are following the same journey, same frameworks. However, like the outline here is different, and it builds upon what they learned, like for example in Sanker's case or IC's case, because we had a lot of students from IC and Sanker last year. Those who are taking the grade 11, we will not repeat the same concepts again in the same way. So we are building up, on what they know. For those who do not know, sometimes we are giving them the links to go and watch something, so they are at the same level, and taking it one step further, like it's a little bit more advanced than what they do in grade 10. And it's the same in terms of expectations for you as teachers, 3 to 5 hours a week, and this fluctuates. So for example, the first 2 weeks, there will be very little work, and then they will submit their problem. So this is where you will have to actually look at the problem and give them feedback. So this will take more time from you. And then there will be like a few weeks where you don't do anything, just maybe a bi-weekly meeting with them to check on their progress. And then there will be like the idea submission. So it will fluctuate with time. I want now to talk more about this curriculum mapping, which is really important. We were discussing this with IC for this year, and I still hope that we can at least experiment a bit with this in preparation for next year. So I really want you all to know that we have a goal of integrating this methodology that I showed you earlier, like the journey in the curriculum itself. And based on our market research and interviews with all the teachers, we have seen that this is actually possible. Okay, and this is a very simple formula, like recipe, if you want to call it, that we have adopted, but we need to test it before we make sure it works. So, and if you are willing to test this with us, we would be grateful. We would love to honestly test it in your schools. And then this will also like remove the hassle of like having this as extracurricular, and then everyone can benefit from this. So we believe that this comes under the bigger umbrella of community service, because it's tackling social innovation, design thinking, and ideation. And again, it's like all community-based projects and SDGs. We also believe that this works nicely with the technology subject or classes, because at one point in time, and for grade 10 they're doing web development. At one point in time for grade 11 they're doing AR. We're also going to add some AI modules later on. They're also doing prototyping, so this is all technology. And also for the business and the economics classes, which are, I know they're part of whether the Lebanese curriculum or the IB or the American high school or even the French curriculum baccalaureate. So market research taps into business and economics, entrepreneurship and the business model. It also taps into business and economics. And finally, pitching, like how to present your business plan. So this is for us a simple recipe on how to integrate our programs into the curriculum. And they won't be, so one important thing, they won't be integrated in this order, but in the order I showed you at first. So for example, we start with finding a problem, which is community service, all right? And then we do market research, so we go to the business class. And then we're finding a solution, so we go again to the community service. And then we're doing prototyping, so we go to the technology class. You know what I mean? So this is, if you're familiar with the International Baccalaureate system, it's very close to that. So it's interdisciplinary. They're working on one project across different classes. So honestly, it was inspired by IB. So my kids did PYP in their elementary school, and I personally loved that. And this was a bit inspired by that as well. So I can send you these. I won't go through them all, but like, again, I really care that whenever students ask you, why are we doing this? You know, what's the gain for me? It's like you can answer them. And this is where you need to root this in, like, again, the needs of the 21st century. And as I mentioned, this could be integrated in the curriculum. So for schools, this is a good thing. It could be part of the grade. It could be part of the teacher's load instead of having it as extra load. It's the competition part is also extra motivation. They can add it to their CV. They can brag about it, you know, in front of others, talk about it in their university interviews and their scholarship applications. And one important thing we need to mention here is that we are finalizing an agreement with AUB where they are certifying our programs. So they are certifying our programs, which means that the certificate that the students will get from the program will have the AUB certification on it. And this is really important. I know that hopefully this will also motivate a lot of students to be part of this. And this will help them get accepted. And as I mentioned earlier, their universities of choice, exchange programs of choice, etc. And this is backed up with research. So I can send you these for, like, there are more, you know, incentives for them if they ask you, why are we doing this? What's in it for us? Why do we need this? And as I mentioned earlier, this is all a partnership. We believe it's a partnership with schools. This is why your presence is really important. We don't want to do all the work, and we don't want this to be, you know, a Shabab Lab program. We want it to be a program offered by the school. So it's like an IC program. It's a Sanker program offered, it's like provided by Shabab Lab, but it's you who owns it, who owns the student's experience, the follow-up, etc. Any questions so far? So I plan to give you a break in maybe 5 minutes. Just bear with me. So this is something that some schools are already aware of, because whenever we've talked with directors, principals, we've mentioned these, but I think we also need to mention them again for you, because I know not all of you were part of those meetings. And this is something that we have developed based on last year's experience, and this could still be improved. So we can still do a better job, I believe, in this. And this is where your feedback is really important. So I would like first to start with the role of the school. So again, we said this is a partnership. Partnership means different parties have different roles. And I'm starting here with the role of the school. And this is, of course, like the administration, the director's office, the principals, etc. The first thing which goes under the role of the school is setting guidelines for the students. So by no means do we, as the Shabab Lab team, set guidelines for students. This should always come from your side. So for example, deciding whether Shabab Lab programs are mandatory or optional, right? So this is something you can only decide. Communicating certain announcements with students and their families. Like, we don't do direct communication with students unless it's related to the program itself after they have enrolled in the program. So for example, you want to inform them about it, invite them to an info session. We expect the school to do that as part of the school. Like, maybe you would like to inform the families of the students about these programs. Also, this is like your responsibility, and we will not do this communication with the parents. Agreeing on the methods of payment for the program. So some of the schools are doing this as a mandatory program where the school covers the cost. Some of them are doing it optional, where the students cover the cost. So all of this is something the schools decide. And we only accept payments from the school itself whenever we're doing a school program. So we don't accept direct payments from the students. Like, we offer different packages. I'm not going to go over them today. All the principals, directors know about them. So choosing which package suits the school is something that the school decides. Appointing the right supervisors or teachers to accompany the students throughout their journey is something that the school decides. So we just can suggest, but we do not have names. We just suggest profiles. And this is what they've done by sending you the invitation for today, ensuring that supervisors complete the training of trainers, the crash course, and ensuring that supervisors are following up with students. This is all something we believe the school should be doing throughout the program. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. The second point is the role of the supervisor or teacher. So this is your role. So again, teacher profile, I believe today we have this and even more. Like, you're coming from community service background, CAS coordinators, technology teachers, business or economics teachers, you have librarians and others. Again, time commitment, we don't believe this should be more than 5 hours per week. And we're talking about the peak weeks where there's like submissions, where students are advancing in their projects, etc. It should be less than that. In case it's more, just let us know and we'll see how we can help. Your role, of course, attending training of trainers like today, completing the teacher crash course. This is still not available, but it will be soon. Being accessible for student questions is something we'll talk about also in the in the second half of today's session. Monitoring the progress of the students on the Shabab Lab platform. So you have access to actually monitor the progress of your students on the platform directly, to see their submissions, to comment on their submissions and give them feedback. And we expect you to do that. And it's very easy, it's very primitive. So we will teach you how to do it. It's really easy. And once you do it, it's gonna become like, second nature. providing feedback to students on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, and conducting meetings. So this is based on last year's experience, really important. And those supervisors who were doing this, like, regular follow-up on at least a bi-weekly basis, really saw great results in terms of commitment, quality of projects, etc. Setting the rules and guidelines for team formation and addressing any team issues. So again, I said this is a team project, and at one point during the program, the students are supposed to create teams. So setting any rules or guidelines for team formation should come from the school and yourselves. So it should come from the school, and it should be communicated by you as teachers or supervisors. We can again recommend, like, for example, not more than 4 people work together, recommend that you don't allow for individual projects. However, we cannot enforce that. You're the only ones who can enforce this. So you have to tell us, for example, we already have predefined teams, and we'll accept that. Or you can tell us they will work in teams of 3, or like, like any guidelines or rules should come from your side, and we can support however we can. Addressing any team issues, like this person is not working, this person has disappeared, this person is too bossy. Like, this is something that also we expect you to handle as the school supervisor who's handling this overall journey of the students. And extension of certain deadlines based on the schools and students' schedules, while making sure the final deadline is respected. So this is something that last year we had an issue with, and we told the schools, like, we're really flexible with deadlines, as long as we meet the final deadline, which is the deadline where we need the pitches to submit them to external jury for the competition. So your school's schedules, when there are term exams and mock exams, and like each school has a different schedule, different holidays. So if you need to move a deadline by 1 week, honestly, it's not a problem whatsoever. And we leave you complete liberty to do that. So this is part of your, discretion, and you need to know about it, basically. As for our role, so again, we're partners in this, and for our role, we are offering you the training of trainers, access to the platform and to the online courses on the platform. We will be delivering a virtual interactive student information session at the beginning of the program. We've already done this with some of the schools. For the rest, we will continue doing this in the next few weeks. We will provide 24/7 technical support for any platform issues, and I'm thankful for Wasim, who's with us today, who is our technical support. We will offer support on the technology module, meaning something is not working in installing a certain software that we ask them to install, or a certain step in the web development or the augmented reality module for grade 11. We will support them on that, so you do not have to worry about this. We will do live monthly sessions starting Feb, with inspiring guest speakers tackling different issues, trendy issues, and interesting issues for their age, of course, and we will be inviting them, and it's optional, but this could add to their overall experience. And finally, when we start with grade 12 programs, which is next year, we'll be offering complimentary mentorship sessions. Yeah, and I just invite you to know which package your school is actually benefiting from. So if it's the basic mentorship or full package, because some of these roles change. But I believe most of you are here in the basic, so it's actually what I just explained. So I think we can maybe take a 5-minute break now. So you are recharged, because the next part is really where we get deeper into the content, into the different milestones, and hopefully it will get more interactive. So any questions before we do a break for 5 minutes?
No, everything is clear for us.
Great. So I'll pause the recording and we'll resume in 5 minutes. Thank you. All right, so maybe you're all wondering now how to ensure a successful program. So there is this new methodology. I'm sure you're familiar with some components of it. You've done maybe something not too far away in the past, but how do we ensure a successful program given that there is this online component, asynchronous component that students are covering? So maybe one of you mentioned earlier that, we want to see how to encourage our students to do meaningful projects and, a high quality projects with online and COVID and so on. And I'll tell you that based on our research, this kind of asynchronous micro learning is very effective. And maybe also, like, it's really important for you to know this, so in case they ask you, you also know what to answer. So although it is asynchronous, but what we're doing is, first of all, we're using micro learning, so very, very short lessons, so 5 minutes max every lesson. And second of all, we're integrating interactive components in these lessons. So definitely we can still work on more interactivity, and this is what we're doing now. But it's not a completely passive learning process. And I think Carla and Nada last year have commented on this like interactive element of it. And they said like, whenever there was a question they need to answer during the video, during the lesson, it made them like be more attentive, be more focused and not drift away from the content. So maybe one thing you need to be aware of is, and you're gonna see it when you do the content yourself, is that in every single lesson, we try to have at least 1 or 2 questions that will keep them engaged throughout. And again, it's a very short lesson. So this is one thing. Another thing is that you need to keep in mind and keep reminding them. And yes, our students need constant reminders. And I think this is, part of reality. We have to just deal with it, that this is a hands-on program. So whatever they're learning in the lessons, again, it's not just for their general knowledge. So I think this is a major misconception sometimes. And during like in the middle of it's like, oh, we're supposed to apply all of that. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to apply all of that. So maybe if I've said it, by the way, in the introduction of the program, we added, a few lessons from last year to make sure that this is clear, but still some students are either forgetting or missing the point. I'm not sure, but they need constant reminders that whatever you're learning, you're supposed to be applying, and it's not just like extra knowledge or general information, or like just we're telling you about what's trendy. No, it's for you to use whatever is in those modules, whatever is in those lessons is for you to apply and to use in this program, in this project. So I think this is really crucial. I cannot emphasize it enough. So the first point I want to make is that we expect you, the teachers, to go over the content on the platform. And this might sound like a lot of work, but honestly, it's not. First of all, a lot of these modules are mobile friendly. The only non-mobile friendly module is the web development or the augmented reality modules of the tech development. And we do not expect you, the teachers, to do this. Like, we do not expect you, unless you're interested, of course, you're welcome to do it. But we're not expecting you to go over, the web development and actually apply it and know how to do a website. We're not expecting you to do that or asking you to do that, neither the augmented reality for grade 11. So you can access most of this content on your phone during your, idle time, whenever you feel like you have some free time on your hands to do this. But this is crucial because you'll see that providing feedback for the students depends on that content. So again, they are doing these asynchronous modules. I'm the instructor in like most of them, not all of them, but like most of them. So I'm speaking to them very similar to what I'm doing right now. I'm telling them about certain concept, they're seeing something on the slide and they're getting some questions, and then they're asked to apply and to submit something. So this is what they're applying, really, the concepts that they're getting. And if you are not aware of these concepts, then you will feel handicapped. You will feel that you don't know exactly what to tell them. So I cannot emphasize enough the need for you to cover the content in preparation of your discussions and weekly or bi-weekly meetings. So the platform looks something like this. It's changing a bit with time. Hopefully it's getting better. And you'll see different courses. We will give you, like, once we have a confirmed list of teachers from each school, we will give you teacher access to the platform, meaning that on, for example, Web for Change, you will not be a student, but you will be a teacher, which gives you extra privileges over the regular student. I will zoom into the course and how it looks like. So this is Web for Change. So this is the grade 10 program. This is how it looks like. So there are different modules, and under each module you expand it and you'll see the different lessons. So for example, here we added an introduction module. It wasn't there last year. So just explaining what this is about, what's the goal, what are they supposed to do, etc. And sometimes we'll find like new lessons since last year, because we are again learning and improving with time. Yeah, another thing for success, other than going through the platform, and again, I told you we will send you your credentials, a password, and shortly we'll show you how to navigate the platform. It's really important for you to understand the program structure and goals. So I already covered the program structure, the journey. I'll go quickly through it again, not through it, I show it to you again. So the journey of, first of all, we think of the solution, and with design thinking and market research, we framed our problem. I don't know if I said solution or problem. So it's problem, not solution. So we think of our problem, we frame it, we do design thinking, etc. Then we start thinking of solutions, also market research, competitive analysis, ideation techniques. Then we do prototypes using our web development or augmented reality development skills that we gained in the technology development module. Then we apply business layers and entrepreneurship layers to make this a sustainable solution, and we pitch it as a social business. So this is the program structure that you need to be aware of. And again, you might be asked these questions with time, like, why shouldn't we think of a solution first? Because if you don't understand your problem well, probably your solution will not fit the problem. So very simple. And these things are like covered inside the content videos, lessons, basically. The goal, again, what's the goal? The ultimate goal is for them to be able to find a meaningful solution to a real problem. The goal is for them to be able to make this a sustainable initiative, to be able to add a business layer, to be social entrepreneurs in the future, to be engaged in their community, to be aware of how they can use technology for the social good, and not just aware, but capable of doing that. Again, to be up to the 21st century needs in terms of technical and non-technical skills. This is the goal. Also, the goal is for them to be part of this competition, which is optional, because some schools said, maybe we don't want to be part of the competition. This is completely your right to opt out of it, but also it is part of entrepreneurship and how entrepreneurs work too. So this is the overall goal. And some of you might, again, make it required. This is part of your community service, requirements for this year, or a grade for this year. So this is also something that is governed by the school itself. So yeah, I mentioned these already. So in the Web for Change, they're doing a web app to solve an environmental problem. And these are the modules I just showed you. And for grades 11, they're creating an augmented reality app that solves a different set of SDGs. They have to like choose a subset or a specific problem. And this is the outline. It's different. It's similar, but different. So again, they're not seeing the same lessons again, or just doing what they did the previous year if they were part of it. One thing that you should be keen about is having those like regular meetings with your students. So again, based on last year's experience, those who had those bi-weekly meetings really reaped a greater, like better results, higher quality projects, really like their projects stood out, whereas those who didn't follow up very regularly, the students even they weren't very sure at one point what they're doing, etc. So this is really important, and we're here to support you. So for example, if you're not sure what you need to cover in those meetings, we can give you guidance. So feel free to connect with us. I'm usually the one who is putting those content related points of action, maybe points for discussion. So feel free to do that. And honestly, we still didn't start working on that, but we're planning to provide like a guide. Hopefully it will be done soon, like maybe every other week, what are the points of discussion that you could raise with your students. So I'm sure this would be really helpful. Hopefully we'll provide that by the time you start. Follow the calendar. So I'll show you the calendar. And again, this is subject to change because different schools will start at different times. So it really will be adapted to your starting date. So this is one example. I'll zoom in. So these are the different modules that we have. This is the start date and this is the deadline. So one thing you need to understand is that we have determined the start dates in a way to give some flexibility to students who want to finish, for example, faster than others, or who are excited more than others and want to move at a faster pace. So again, what's beautiful about self-paced learning, or what we call asynchronous learning, is that you can determine your own pace. But again, because this is a school program and we don't want them to finish everything in like 2 weeks, we have sometimes determined start date. But if you look here, for example, the last module will start almost 1 month before the final deadline. So if someone is really doing well, they can finish around 1 month early. So this is the flexibility that we want to keep with our e-learning programs. So this is really important for you to understand and to communicate. So although the modules have certain deadlines, but usually like the next module will open earlier than the deadline. So we don't wait for the deadline to open the next module. And this is catering for maybe they have some exams, some other projects. And again, some people are really excited and they want to do more. So they have the flexibility to do that. Now in bold, you can see the deadlines of the modules that have a deliverable. So that's a submission. So again, when you go to the platform and you see it, you're gonna understand more clearly what I'm talking about. So here is the first submission where they actually submit the problem that they want to solve. So for example, this is February 21st. As I mentioned, this will be slightly changed because most of you did not start on January the 24th. So here, this should be something that you are monitoring as teachers or supervisors, whether or not they submitted their problem by this deadline. And after this deadline, it's your job or your responsibility to access the platform and to give feedback on this submission. And you need to do this before, let's say, they submit definitely their idea, which is the second submission. So there's more than a month difference, and maybe in 1 or 2 weeks max after they have submitted their problem, they need to have received some feedback from your side, because without the feedback, they won't be able to improve whatever they've submitted. And based on our experience this year, so we've already started with IC with the Ghali Ghandour Center. They're already doing grade 10 program. And we have realized that they got a lot of feedback that helped them refine their first submission. So a lot of them submitted twice or even 3 times the first submission because their problem was either too general, or it was only based on assumptions and no research, or it was not very relevant to the environmental theme. Okay, so I'm gonna cover these in a bit, like the major problems we face and their problem framing and definition. So this is where feedback is really important to get. And as I mentioned, there are other submissions such as the business plan, the prototype, and the pitch. For the last 3 submissions, we'll have another training of trainers where we discuss them because we can't, cover everything in only 2 hours. It needs more time. So again, we will provide you with 2 tables. The first one looks like this with all the start dates and the deadlines of the module. And the second one is only reminding you of the deadlines of the submissions. So this is it's extracted from the first table. One addition is team formation. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this is a team-based project. And after they submit their problem and they refine it and they get feedback, etc., they're supposed to start thinking of teams. Who do I want to join my team? And this is where, again, we expect you as teacher supervisors to help them with finding the right team or guiding them at least. For example, some guidelines we would like to give you is the team should be diverse. So let's say we are a group, I have another 2 girlfriends, and we all love business. So I don't think this is a great team. Why? Because this project doesn't only require some business skills or business mindset, it also requires some technical skills and some communication skills. So we need these 3 things. So I need someone who's good in business. So that's me, for example. I need someone who's good in technology and likes, programming and tinkering with tech. So that's the other person. And the third person, I need someone who has a strong personality. They pitch well, they don't mind going and talking to people, interviewing them, conducting surveys, etc. So it won't be a good idea to only partner with people who have exactly the same skill sets. I want diversity. I want to cover all the elements or aspects that are under consideration in this project. And this is a common problem. I face this all the time with my university students as well. Like, they only want to work with their friends, but they need to understand that this might harm them more than help them. And again, this is a short-term thing. It's like a 3 months project. It's not you're partnering up for a lifetime. So this is one thing. Another thing, as I mentioned earlier, yes, Ms. Maha?
Unmute myself. Okay. One thing is that every single student is working on designing, on design thinking to framework a certain issue, a certain problem. When you team them, on which issue are they going to work? Is maybe each one of them had an idea, they're attached to it, or how do you choose the problem that they are going to work on it as a team?
Yeah, so and according to our previous experience, for example, people who wanted to work on a similar kind of problem, it wasn't exactly the same, they teamed up and then they chose one problem from whatever was proposed, or maybe they came up with a new proposal, like a more specific, more refined proposal based on the different propositions by the different team members. Or sometimes it's just like I had something, but you had like a much more, better framed problem. So I'll go with yours because it sounds interesting and I think I would like to work on it. So I'll just go with yours. So there will be those compromises. that will be done. And we haven't faced until now, I mean, the other teachers can tell me if they faced any such problems, but we haven't faced like those severe discussions where like, no, I want to go with my idea and I'm not willing to, you know, like compromise any part of it. We haven't faced this issue last year because also we like part of maybe something I should have stressed a bit more. The whole framework that we use is very iterative. So we tell them this will keep changing and improving with time. So don't like get super stuck on like either the problem or solution, because this will keep improving with time. So this is something we focus on a lot during the sessions, like the online asynchronous sessions and lessons. We tell them a lot that you should always keep an open mind. And so I don't know, maybe can someone tell me if there were issues last year with like this team formation, or was it smooth?
I can say that what we did, Ms. Maha, we brainstormed with our students, Ms. Nada and I. And what we did is once we found that they had things in common, as Dr. Itani said, we suggested to them that maybe they should team up. And what we did not allow more than 4 students together, so that we don't have silent partners within the team, so that each and everyone would do something. And in all the competitions we take part in, as Dr. Itani said, we try to let them say what their strong points are. And then if we have like 5 that have the same strong point, what we try to do, we define strengths and weaknesses. What we try to do is we try to separate them and split them into different groups, so that we don't have the same people that have the same, you know, we try to diversify the team, as we already said. So this is what we do. This brainstorming session helps a lot. We do explain to them, they are convinced, they go think about it and come back, and the teams are formed, and there's no issue.
Yeah, so I thank you, Carla, for this. This is great, because this is also part of like what was asked at the very beginning, like how do we guide them? So I think this is part of your role as guidance. So saying that you need to find this point of commonality. It doesn't have to be the exact same problem you chose at first, but try to come up with a middle way, you know, ground where you're all fine with this. And again, I think diversity is key. It's really very important, because again, you don't want a team that is, they all want to pitch at the end, and no one wants to do the technical development part. Like you want someone who's good at these different components that I mentioned earlier, these different elements that will make this project come together and stand out. So I hope this helps. If you have more questions, we're ready to take them.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so this is again a similar timeline, but for the grade 11 program. This is something, as I mentioned, we will definitely share with you once you have exact dates of starting dates. And the ending date usually will come from our side, taking into consideration the school, you know, the academic year and exams period. We don't want this to get in the way of the exams or anything. Yeah, one very important thing as well is giving examples. And this is again where you can either do some research from your side, and it's very easy. It's very like, you will find plenty. Yes, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, if you can go back to the previous slide.
Yes, so this will change, Nada, because as I mentioned earlier, like this is based on starting on January 24th, which we couldn't yet start. So the whole, you know, table of dates will change, okay?
Okay,
but
Doctor.
Just to give you an idea, yeah.
Yes, but still it's gonna take like 3 months, right? Minimum. I mean, from Jan 24 till April.
Yeah, we don't want to get into the exams period. So, I mean, I prefer not to touch upon May, because maybe this is when you start doing your exams, right?
Yeah, and mid-Feb also.
So,
I mean, yes, 3rd week of Feb, we start exams.
So this, the 3rd week of Feb, which I think is common to many schools, This is where you have this flexibility, right? So to say, okay, like you have more time to finish this module, or, you know, so this is where the flexibility I talked about earlier comes into play. But I don't think we can cater for it ourselves here, but you should feel free to say, guys, like this period, you don't have to do much.
Okay, when will we have, I mean, like
once you decide to start, yeah, it's based on you.
All right, so we send you the dates. We send you the dates. Exactly. All right.
We need the starting date from your side.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're ready. We are ready, and we were ready to start, honestly, last week. But I know some delays have happened due to COVID cases, things like that. So we do understand. So for the examples, what I was trying to say is, like, we realized that whenever in those discussion sessions and your meetings with them, you give some examples, it will enrich the discussion, it will make it more concrete and more interesting. And we've, I think, done a good job in providing some examples on our platform as well. Maybe Wasim can also type in the chat this link, which is shabablab.com/series. We have 2 types of series until now, and this will increase with time. The first row is a series of real social entrepreneurs in the Arab world. So all of these are real cases. They're not just projects, they're actual businesses. They're like running businesses that have teams and have revenues and costs and impact and people who have benefited from their services. I featured here only 3. But there are much more that we have featured, and we will continue to do so on Shabab Lab. I'll give you quick examples. Aline Sara is a Lebanese American entrepreneur. She created Natakallam. Natakallam is an online platform that allows Syrian refugees to have a decent job where they worked in language-related services, for example, Arabic tutoring, translation, and other services. She has done, honestly, an amazing job and has won so many awards, and she has a global team of like, I don't know, 50 people or even more maybe, and has impacted the lives of thousands of refugees around the world. Reem Al-Franji is a personal friend of mine. We met during a social entrepreneurship program in Sweden, and she has launched habaibna.net, which is an online platform that provides teachers and parents of children with developmental disabilities with tools and resources in order to help these kids have prospects for their future, learn and be economically active in their societies when they grow older. So she personally had 2 kids who had developmental disabilities, and she decided to help other parents who are facing the same issue as she did. And also, she's an award winner. She has she has received funding from different sources. One of them is Expo Live, which is part of Expo 2020 in Dubai. Another one is Oasis 500, which is a renowned accelerator program in Jordan. And the third one, you can see on the top right, is Samer Sferi, a Lebanese entrepreneur. And he founded an online platform called ProAbled. So these are all examples of web development for the social good. ProAbled is a platform where people with disabilities who have been trained by the company get listed on the platform, and where HR or human resource departments who are interested and willing to recruit people with disabilities can get matched with those candidates to perform certain tasks and to get, again, decent employment opportunities. So all of these are real, and we have much more on the platform. On the bottom, you can find some projects of actual Shabab Lab students. So they are, some of them, I'm sure, like Pro Reserves, I think it was an IC group, Litani Cleanup was a Sanker group, and Ryan Green was one of the groups we got during the summer. They didn't belong to one one school basically. So also they have, the students have access to these, and you as teachers have access to these for like inspiration, for discussion, ignition purposes and so on. So I really recommend that you, like you can sometimes resort to examples that we give during the lessons. Like for example, in the design thinking module, we give lots of examples. So some of those could be used as well. So also you need to provide feedback. So definitely, as I mentioned, this is part of your role, and the students expect it, we expect it. And if we don't provide them with feedback, they won't be able to submit a high quality project by the end of the program. So this is where this feedback is very, very crucial. And now I'll tell you more about the feedback that you need to provide. So the first thing is the problem definition. And here maybe Wasim, if you can just also in the chat, provide them with, there's a YouTube link for a small video that I've created based on some real submissions, where I say like, what are some things to follow, what are some things to avoid. I'll see if I can give you a few examples right now. 1 second, I'll see if I can share my screen. Yeah. Okay, can you see my screen? Yeah?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so this is, for example, one submission we've had last year in the Web for Change program. So this group of students said that all women in Lebanon struggle or need a way to protect themselves against rape and sexual assault because they can't find suitable self-defense tools in stores, nor professionals that teach self-defense classes. So this, if you're wondering, this is a template that we have given them. Okay, so all submissions follow a very specific template. So we make our lives and your lives easier, and the students' lives, of course, way easier. But they just have to fill this in their own words based on their own problem. So can someone tell me what's odd or off about this problem? Again, this is Web for Change. We said we are tackling environmental problems. So can someone tell me what's maybe not great about this problem?
How is it related to environment?
Yes, exactly. So this is irrelevant, right? So this is one of the issues you will find, okay? So some of the problems that they will choose will be irrelevant to the subset of SDGs that we have chosen for their specific grade and specific program. So, and they will ask, like, why can't you work on women empowerment? Like, I'm passionate about this. And yeah, this is a great, honestly, great problem. But for this year, we're working on environment. Okay, so there isn't much to say here, but it's just like the theme is environmental, and in order to evaluate different projects against each other, it's better to have them all pertaining to this, theme, which is the environment. So, yeah, this is the first. I'll go through a few more. Yeah, there's another one. Polar bears. They struggle or need a way to live in their natural habitat because of global warming. The concerning case of pollution on Earth led to an increasing of temperature, which caused the poles to gradually melt, and polar bears are slowly being deprived of a home because of global warming. So any also ideas on maybe why this is not the best problem that we're looking for?
Too wide?
Okay.
Not specific.
It's not specific, but what else? Like, again, remember the community engagement component.
Not human.
Not related to humans.
Not related to humans. And what about our own context? Like, we're living...
Not local. We don't have polar bears.
Exactly, it's not local. So they should always look at problems that are contextual in nature. So they have something to do with their community. They're like, so I told this group, for example, unless you come from a country where this is a real problem, this is not relevant to your community. So I understand some people, let's say, for example, you have some expats from Pakistan, at IC, which is possible, right? And they would like to work on a problem in Pakistan, that's fine, because this is their original, country of origin. Maybe they have relatives there, maybe they visit every summer, maybe they plan to go there one day again, and this is fine. But if you've never visited Pakistan, you don't have any intentions to go there, why would you want to solve a problem, pertaining to Pakistan? You should solve a problem related to your community, basically. This is like basics of community engagement, I would say. Let us go to a few, all right, so here the Lebanese farmers struggle or need a way to produce or buy fertilizers because they need a way to supply their crops at a much cheaper cost, because in the past year, the price of fertilizers has drastically increased, making it nearly impossible for farmers to get. So any here, like any feedback you would like to give on this particular problem?
It's an economical problem. It's not related to environmental. It's pure business.
Okay.
Standalone business,
So,
not related to environmental
so
problems.
the environmental aspect is not clear here. So
yes, it's not there even.
Exactly. Think of a way, because they can't find an environmental aspect to it. Like we're talking about farming, fertilizers, so it is related to the environment, but this should be clarified through the problem, and yes, not just putting it in an economical context, but also in an environmental context.
So maybe if they ask if they said the Lebanese farmers don't know how to use compost, or how to compost and use these composts to fertilize their crops, it could be more environmental.
Yes, for example.
Okay.
Just trying to find, this one, for example. It's a really, really long one, and there are so many different components involved. So I'll read it. The environment, labor workers, young and old, and animals. So first of all, it's like too broad. Environment, people, different ages, even animals. They struggle and need a way to help workers find justice and gain their basic rights. Good working conditions, stopping industries from pollution and harming animals for fashion and torturing their workers. Because the textile industry has many negative impacts on our world today, such as polluting and using water, air contamination. So any comments on this one?
They definitely need to focus on something.
So it's it's as if they've dumped all the research they've done into this one slide, where it should be one particular sentence about a specific problem. So first of all, we should focus on a specific target audience, and this should be always people. So it shouldn't be polar bears or the environment or animals or like the waters or the trees. It should always be like real human beings. And then it should be very specific. So they're talking about water pollution, air contamination, usage of energy, mistreating workers. So these are very different problems. We cannot solve them all in one solution. It's impossible. So they have to be specific.
Basically, we have to guide them to choose only one SDGs.
Not necessarily. It's one problem. Sometimes one problem could pertain to multiple SDGs, and this is, it's fine, but the problem should be specific. So here, for example, as you can see, they're talking about air pollution, water pollution, usage of energy, mistreating workers, completely different SDGs and different, areas. So some of them fall under life on land, but some others about, inequalities, economic empowerment, maybe gender, maybe affordable and clean energy. So we're talking about very, very, very different and unrelated issues here. So yes, we do agree, like if I was the teacher here, I would tell them, yes, I do agree that textile industry has all these negative impact, but you need to focus on one of them. And given that we're talking about the environment, it could not be mistreating workers, right? Because this is irrelevant to the environmental theme. So it should be one of the other ones, either how much they're using water and how this could be improved, or how they're polluting air and this could be improved, or how much they're using energy and how this could be improved. So it should be one of these, not all at once. Let's see if we have some others. Fast fashion. Air pollution, and this is another one. So here they are saying Lebanese people need a way to increase their consumption of reusable and recyclable products. Why? Because burning rubbish will lead to air pollution and it causes serious public health issues. So any feedback on this one from your side?
So it's two topics, recycling and air pollution. And air pollution, we just said it's too broad and we need to be more specific in one area so we can work on and find a solution. If we just keep it like this, we cannot find any solution for the problem.
Okay, so this is one aspect, very important aspect. Another aspect is
they're
that
finding a solution directly. They're creating a solution that is actually a problem, by the way, and to justify another issue.
Yes, so you will find this, that sometimes they are framing the problem with the solution in mind, and we don't want that. So they are like imposing the solution through the problem definition. We don't want that. And here, as you can see in the second part of the problem, the burning of rubbish will lead to air pollution. This is a consequence, and this is not a root cause. So what should come in the problem statement after they start with their target audience and their struggle is the root cause and not a consequence. So I'll tell you, let's say citizens of Beirut struggle or need a way to breathe fresh air because, and they will tell me, breathing polluted air will cause health issues. Like we all know this, right? So they didn't add anything else. So what they need to do, instead of telling me the consequence of this problem, they have to find the root cause. So why am I not able to change this? What is preventing me from doing what I intend to do? What is preventing me from achieving my goal? What is making me stay in this struggle? So this is a very common issue. Yeah.
Sorry, so we need to emphasize on the idea of burning, rubbish burning?
Burning is a consequence, right? Okay. So it's not a root cause, right? So like if you burn, this is what will happen. But they were starting with recyclables, and so why aren't they why aren't they able to recycle rubbish? So this is the because, not what happens if we burn the rubbish. So they're going into consequences, and you find this, it's a common issue that you will face. All right, so I hope this gives you a glimpse of some. Let me just see one thing. Sorry. Yeah, I need to stop.
Dr. Muna?
Yes.
Are we allowed to share this video with our students?
Yes.
To discuss the way we have to deal with problems?
Yes, and we do provide it as well for them. Yes, it's very important, and this is just like a starting point. We have, by the way, other examples as well. We can share them, or you can also come up with your own. Sorry about that. Okay. Another thing, again, as I mentioned, you need to emphasize. So I'm gonna just take 5 minutes and then we're gonna be done. Another thing you need to emphasize is following the design thinking process. So again, the most important thing you need to know about design thinking, and you're gonna see this in the lessons, is empathy. And this is what our students often forget, okay? So the whole idea, what makes this unique, what makes it different, what makes it special and really effective is the empathy part of it, which means you have to, as the person who's trying to solve a problem, to empathize with the people who are facing this problem. And this is what our students and youth and maybe us as a culture, we shy away from. And I understand this. If now I tell my daughter, you know, go and talk to the people who are facing problems related to asthma, she will feel awkward. Okay, it's not easy to go out of your way, talk to strangers, go out of your comfort zone, but they need to do some kind of empathy, talking with the people. They could be definitely referred by their parents or by their relatives, but they should not only stick to their circle of, you know, comfort. Like I talk to my mom and dad and my uncle, it's not enough. Like, of course, don't talk to strangers, especially nowadays. Maybe it's not the best idea. But like you should find, and I'm sure, like I know my daughter when she was doing her PYPX in grade 5, they asked them to do some interviews, and I helped her like find these interviewees to talk to, etc. So we should encourage them through maybe their circle to find other people they can talk to, they can empathize, do interviews. And here is also where we need to emphasize the community part. So one example we have now, one project, they want to work on people in rural areas who are still over relying on the traditional energy, producing ways, like, fossil fuels and so on. And I was like, if you have access to people in the rural areas and you can talk to them, then you should definitely do that. But if it will be difficult for you to go and talk to these people, you can talk to them virtually. And this is the beauty of COVID. It taught us that we don't have to actually do this in person. We can schedule a Zoom call, a WhatsApp video call, a Google Meet call, so anything. We have many ways to do this, and now everyone is more receptive of these like online meetings. So unless you have access to them, you're willing to go to them or at least interview them virtually. If you're not willing to do that, then don't work on rural areas. If you're living in an urban area, just find the problem in your urban area. So it's really important to always emphasize this community aspect and empathy aspect, and this is the most important part of design thinking. Let me go to the next slide. Market research is also another thing they tend to forget about. What does it mean? So market research, again, is like in parallel to me empathizing, doing some interviews, doing some surveys, validating that the problem really exists and there are real people who are facing it, and trying to understand the root cause issues. I need to also do this research in parallel where I see what other people around the world have done about this problem. Maybe read some reports about this, alternative energy solutions and what works best in rural areas and what is the most affordable and how could a web-based solution help. So we do not have to reinvent the wheel. We always tell them this throughout the program. Please do not reinvent the wheel or attempt to reinvent the wheel. No one wants to do that. And in order to make sure that you're not reinventing the wheel, you need to conduct a lot of market research, competitive analysis. What are others doing? If something works, I can adapt it and make it even better. If something has been tried and it didn't work, and I avoid doing it. So this is where doing this research is really important. And it's not just, it is a module, but it's not just one time where I do it. I have to keep like this in mind throughout the process. Tech development, this is where, again, you are not expected to be doing much. We will be supporting them on everything related to tech development. But one thing I need from you is to tell them, as you go through these modules, you need to pause your video, apply, and then play again. So honestly, we think that this is pretty obvious, but unfortunately it's not. So we actually created a whole lesson saying, you know, in the tech development module, make sure to pause, apply, and then resume your video. So yeah, I hope they will do that. And it's just maybe a good idea to remind them of that. A group formation, as I mentioned, this is something maybe you need to dedicate 1 or 2 sessions to make sure everything is smooth. They are working on projects they are interested in, passionate about, and there's some synergy, but also diversity in the groups. And ideation. Ideation is really important, and we are providing them with different ideation techniques to make sure that they don't, again, just go with a very cliche, déjà vu solution. And this is where the more research they do, the better, because they will be able to build upon something that already works and maybe add some, you know, interesting elements on top of it. And this is where, again, whatever idea they are coming up with should pertain to their community. Again, should pertain to solving an environmental problem. It should pertain to really effectively solving the problem that they have defined. This is what we call the problem solution fit. And many times in a pitch, you would they would start with the problem and then they will say the solution, and they're not very directly related to each other. And we do understand, because they have started with a problem and then, you know, things have changed, and then the problem has slightly changed and the solution has really changed, and they forgot to, you know, change the initial problem. So this is where we need to remind them as well, like, make sure they fit together. It's okay to change your problem, to go back to it and refine it. I mean, nothing should, you know, be set in stone and you cannot change it. Of course, you can keep on changing, and this is part of learning. This is part of following this whole iterative process and framework. So this is ideation, thinking out of the box, thinking of some unique elements, because again, we don't want just replica of solutions we've seen over and over and over again. And yeah, finally, everything else, like everything related to the business planning, the entrepreneurship module, the pitching module, we will talk about in the second training of trainers, which will come maybe in a month and a half time. And meanwhile, I would like to invite you, of course, if you would like, and if you do spend some time on social media, to follow us on Shabab Lab. So a lot of our posts are very relevant to what I was talking about today. We do share a lot of, okay, Wasim, yes, I saw your comment. I will address it in a bit. So we do share some short videos on social entrepreneurship, tips for pitching, and for ways to be able to find, you know, meaningful solutions to societal problems. So we do invite you to have a look at our social media, and definitely if you have any questions, you can email me. Yeah, I know we're out of time, but Wasim was reminding me about a very important aspect, which is the teacher dashboard. So what we will do, because I mean, I doubt that anyone will register right now, is that when we send you your credentials, when we send you your credentials, we will also send you a tutorial, a video tutorial to how to access your teacher dashboard and how to provide feedback and comments on your student submissions. So I mean, we can show you this right now, but I'm sure you won't be able to register directly. So I prefer we send you the tutorial by email, the link. And if you have any problem whatsoever, kindly get back to us and we will assist you. And again, this might not seem very straightforward the very first time, but I promise you, once you do it, and maybe we can schedule like a session with Wasim for maybe 15-20 minutes, it doesn't need more than that, where you do it, it will be as easy as pie. So it will be really, really easy. So yeah, how does that sound? Is it fine?
Yes, it's very good, doctor. Thanks a lot. It's very clear.
Thank you. And yeah, Wasim, if you want to share from now the link to that video on how they can access their teacher dashboard, of course we can do that. So we will send you these links also in the email. But now, like, it's like my ask for you. I need you to prompt your directors, principals, just to let us know exactly when we need to start with your school. And honestly, we really hope to start as soon as possible, given that, as you mentioned, you have the Feb exams, and then we don't want to get into May where you have all your final exams and so on. So the faster the earlier we start, the better, and the more more like relaxed the students will be. We don't want them to be pressured. We know that they already have a lot on their plate with the curriculum and the exams and so on. And at the end of the day, all our aim is to really add to their experience, add something important, something that will help them in their future career, determine what they want to pursue at university, etc. Yes, Sarah, honestly, we're waiting for you to tell us about the info session for the students. So we have already started with the information sessions to students in other schools. So again, this is something you need to tell us about. So I can't tell you, tomorrow I'm coming to your school to do this info session. So you really need to tell us.
Actually, we're hoping to be back to school tomorrow after the storm. We've been at home for around 3 weeks because our school is located in the mountains, as you know.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, even for Beirut, like I live in proximity to IC and ACS, and we're doing these sessions online. So if you don't mind, we prefer online as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Al-Manar Modern School, it's in Ras Al Matan, Carla.
I am your neighbor.
Really?
I am your neighbor during the summer. My house is directly in front of your school.
Wow, that's nice. Great.
What a coincidence, eh? Very nice.
Small world.
Our meeting is tomorrow, Dr. Aitani, with our students, and I will be present online too.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? So again, as I mentioned, we are waiting for you to tell us when you would like to start, when you would like us to have the information session. We are ready from our side. The platform is ready, the programs are ready. And as soon as you provide us with the starting date, the info session date, and the list of students, most importantly, we can directly onboard them on the platform, and we right away start with the programs. So we're waiting for you. Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.